that kid who won't rotate? What about that guy that keeps going for boost? And I bet you're sick of that teammate who just keeps cutting you off. Well, what if I told you that sometimes you are that teammate?
Bruh.
No, seriously, it's true. No matter how hard you try, you're eventually that annoying teammate to someone else. I'm going to show you how to avoid being that annoying teammate and how to start encouraging your team to work together completely by your movement and decisions. The first thing to understand about rotation is a player's range for option coverage. Starting at bronze, a range is very minimal, all the way up to grand champ where the range is much larger due to far more car control. Your range is much larger in front of you than it is behind you thanks to momentum and boost. The more car control you have, the larger your range gets. Range is what is possible for a player to cover from their given position. For the sake of simplicity, in this video we'll be using a Grand Champ's range to demonstrate covering the most potential, but scale down the range according to what you think is accurate for your rank. Starting with your team, a good rotation is one that leaves as much area covered as possible, as close as possible, without leaving any opportunities for threatening touches from your opponent, and without overlapping any coverage. Overlapping coverage means you push too close to your teammate, and in doing so, overlap your range with theirs. If you overlap ranges, it means that you're now covering less of the field than is possible, creating inefficiency in your team's overall coverage. Now this rule does have some wiggle room, so don't worry about small areas of overlap too much. This is more about not entering your teammate's zone when they have something covered, just because you want to help them cover it. You want to leave minimal gaps between you and your teammates because these gaps become areas that you can potentially lose possession if the ball is played there. You want to leave all the gaps in your coverage in non-threatening areas of the field. Places that your team can get to first, or places your team can cover any angle from there on net. And that leads us into the next point, trust. It's important to trust your teammates just as much as you trust yourself. Everyone is at your rank for the same reason. Their range will be around the same size as yours. You need to trust your teammates whether you want to or not. It's almost always more efficient to continue covering the area you need to and clean up the mistake after it happens than to join in on the mistake and potentially make things worse. Now, this works the other way around too, because if you see your teammate in a position that looks like it might be awkward for you if you were in that position, odds are they're going to have trouble too. This helps you predict mistakes and prepare yourself to fill their position if they rotate out, or position to clean up if they miss. There is risk involved with trusting your teammates because they might mess up and it might cause you to get scored on, but this is now their mistake and not yours. In the long run, you'll be rewarded for rotating properly and building good habits more than you'll be punished. Just like you and your team have a range, so do your opponents. Your opponent's range will again be similar to yours, but if you're thinking, oh, that's great because my range is pretty small, so I shouldn't expect much out of my opponents either. Well, then I'm glad you're watching this video because this part's important, especially for you. When it comes to your opponent's range and your teammate's range, you have to read the play and ask yourself, given both these players' positions, when going for the ball, what's the most threatening possible outcome to my team? This could mean it's a shot on net, or a 50-50 out middle, maybe it's a pinch clear, anything that really poses an immediate threat to your team, or your team's positioning, or your team's possession. You have to make sure that the most immediate threat is covered first, but you have to cover it while staying as close to the play as possible so that you can cover every other possible outcome that is behind your teammates but still in front of you. This is called option coverage. You cover every option your opponents have at all times, and it will help you to get or keep possession of the ball more. When rotating, one must ask themselves, is the most immediate threat covered? If the answer is yes, this means your teammate has it covered, and you should rotate to a position that covers options that your teammates are not currently covering, but still remain close to the play. If the answer is no, then rotate to cover the most immediate threat while also remaining close to the play so that you can join in the moment you're needed. This is how rotation works. If you see possibilities for your team, position to support those. If you see possibilities for your opponents, position to cover them. If you see both and you're the last man back, Prioritize the safer option if you think the risky play is unlikely to succeed, but always stick around and make a play in case the ball gets put somewhere that none of your teammates can cover. Another large part of rotating is boost management. You can't do everything we just talked about without boost, because not having boost significantly decreases your range of possibility. If you manage your boost properly, you'll be able to move the same speed as the play, meaning as the play speeds up, you speed up, and as the play slows down, you slow down. It's important to be moving the same speed as the play so that you can keep up with anything that happens. If you leave for boost and come back, you'll often be moving quicker than the play to catch back up with it since you originally left for boost. Moving too quickly like this is oftentimes going to force you to use the brakes and lose momentum, or you have to keep going and you get too close to the play, forcing you to drive in a circle or make a turn that points your tail at the play for a second so that you can keep your distance. You want to keep your nose pointed at the play because this gives you the most efficient angle to react to whatever happens. To counter that urge to leave for boost, you should constantly be looking to travel over pads nearest the path you would take to cover your part in rotation. Pads allow you to stay with the play and maintain your speed and distance from the ball. You'll always want to be in support of your teammates so that the moment they can't go, you can. This is what keeps rotation slowing, giving you more pressure on offense and more challenges on defense. As much as you might think you don't always need 100 boost. 3 pads is more than enough boost to maintain your position and continue applying pressure to the play so that you can keep possession more often. There is no order to rotation, and rotation is not centered around you. This game is not about you, it is about the team. Unless you're playing ones, in which case you are the team, do whatever makes you happy. You should always put the team's well-being above your individual desires when trying to rotate properly. This means rotating where you're needed, not where you want to go. For example, just because you're covering the third man position while your teammates sit upfield taking shots over and over doesn't mean you deserve a turn up top. You have to rotate where it's most efficient for your team's coverage. If your tail is pointed at a ball and your teammate is behind you with their nose pointed at the ball, it's their ball, even though you're closer to it. It's more efficient for that teammate to keep moving forward and get a touch, and you keep moving forward and rotate back to fill their spot, than it is for you to turn around, lose momentum, and use boost to get it back, and also force your teammate to turn, lose momentum, and use boost to get it back, just so that they can hold the position you left open by cutting. That's cutting rotation, and we want to avoid that. Now, cutting rotation is sometimes necessary, but it's important to learn the ins and outs of how rotations work before attempting to implement proper cuts. Cutting rotation is only beneficial in situations where the outcomes are in your favor or more efficient because you cutting gave you a better angle than your teammate would get. Now that you know all this is where things get tricky. When playing Rocket League, it's always important to visualize what could possibly happen next, and that means everything. You have to always think 2, 3, even sometimes 4 steps ahead. So while thinking about rotations, you want to think steps ahead. Ask yourself, what are all the possibilities here? And what will I need to do in the case that each of them happens? Anticipating what will happen and moving through rotations to cover those steps ahead is what's going to allow you to rotate efficiently. Sometimes you have to anticipate a change in the direction of the play to properly be covering all the possibilities. Sometimes you have to anticipate a change in speed or a change in possession, so on. So many factors go into where to be and what to cover. I couldn't possibly fit every scenario into this video, so I hope with all the information I've just given you that you can take it into your gameplay and start covering the right places at the right times. If you can do all this properly, oftentimes your teammates will catch on and realize that you rotate with the team's best interest in mind, not your own. And they'll feel obligated to do the same because they don't want to seem like that selfish ball chaser on the team. No one wants to be that guy. He just ruins the game for everyone else who's trying to work together. If you've made it this far into the video, then I can confirm that you have a big brain. So go ahead and join the Big Brain Discord. The link will be in the description, and comment Big Brain when you do it. If you enjoyed the video, then definitely hit the thumbs up button. It helps more people to see this tutorial on their feed, and it could be that guy who you keep getting in ranked who just won't fix his rotations. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you're new and you want to catch every tutorial I upload, because more than 70% of you aren't subscribed and you aren't part of the Big Brain gang. It's a shame. But hey, shout out to all the big brains that are subbed, and as always, thanks for watching.